Hey, what's up makers? Trevor here for Love Make Share, and I'm going to try something a little bit different than usual, which is just a vlog. I used to do some little project vlogs about different things that we were up to. They always ended up being a little bit more complicated than they needed to be, so I'm going to try and keep this one kind of simple and let you know what we've been up to lately. And one of the projects that we've been working on and off for ages is putting together this Adafruit kit that is, it's a Game Boy, built around a Raspberry Pi, basically. And it was designed, there was a case designed for it by my littlest, by Whistler, my 8-year-old. And we have been poking at the design for this case in Fusion 360 for a while now. But we've got a prototype and we're doing some stuff with the printer, so I thought I would show you what we're up to. So you can go back and see the unboxing video, I'll put it here on the screen somewhere, where we opened up the Adafruit kit and looked at all the pieces and got a sense of how it all would go together. There's another video, I have to finish editing honestly, where we put all the pieces together and everything works. All the guts of the Game Boy are just fine, but then we needed a case to put it in. Naturally, we're not just going to use the case file that's readily available. We wanted to design something else. So the original concept that I had was kind of looking at all of these different types of controllers. Had an idea at one point that I might want to do like an Atari Lynx inspired thing, maybe try and make something super slick like the Xbox controller. There was a point where I was very strongly considering like a Dreamcast controller with a Raspberry Pi shoved in it. My littlest designed a case, and then she and I went back and refined her design, and it looked something like this. She wanted a heart. She wanted a heart, and we're probably going to hydro dip it at some point. But in the meantime, the general idea is it's going to be pink with blue buttons, and that's what the design is going to be. So next, went into Fusion 360 and put together kind of the broad strokes of it and came up with this prototype. So as you can see, it's not assembled right now. We just kind of threw it together with hot glue and bits of wood and whatnot, and some tape. Whoa. You can also see that the D-pad has fallen out because there's nothing behind it to hold it in place. But we've got shoulder buttons. We've got this fun Game Boy Advance inspired shade here for the buttons that are on the little Adafruit TFT display here. That's like your start and select and a couple other function buttons. We've got some little squishy switches for the D-pad. We've got some little clicky buttons under here, and for the eagle-eyed, there we go, you'll see that we have some convex buttons and some concave buttons, just like the Super NES controller. You will also notice that I have written on this. So there are some spacing issues, which is why this isn't all assembled right now. We needed this to come down a little bit so that the TFT buttons were a little bit more easily clickable. And also, there has to be more space, so I looked at it and I was like, I could really use another 3 to 5 millimeters of space between the TFT, so where the TFT ends here, and the printed circuit board for the controls. So that's something that I've been working on a bit today, which is why I thought it might be cool to come see the video. The other reason these needed to come over is because they were just a little far. Like for my giant paws, it's fine, right? It's okay. But for my 8-year-old's teeny tiny fingers, it would really help if the button was here instead of here, and here instead of here, you know? And the D-pad, same thing. So she can kind of get to it from the bottom, but it's really like, it's an exercise in arching her hands for her, so the ergonomics aren't great. These shoulder buttons, though, I'm very happy with. You'll notice here that I needed a little something to keep it in place. Like, I want it to rotate this way to click the switch behind it, but I don't want it to rotate out this way out of the Game Boy, so I needed to add a little something here. So this is just a piece of styrene plastic that I hot glued into place. You'll also notice that this looks like it has been cut up a little bit in order to make it fit. That's because it has everything. The tolerances were just a little tight, so I modified that in Fusion as well. So why am I doing this video now instead of after I have printed a more final version of this case? And that is a very good question. The short answer is the 3D printer is out of commission for the moment. So this is my printer. It is a secondhand Velleman Vertex K8400. It has been a really cool exercise in taking a machine that did not work when I got it, or kind of marginally worked but had some problems with it, and slowly solving one problem after another. And you will see that some fixes are very much in progress. Have, for example, you'll notice attached to this tube, yeah, that's a second hot end. So this is a dual extruder printer, but there's only currently one hot end in place, and that's because there is no way to level this printer right now, given the fact that I have one new nozzle on and one old nozzle on. So the one that's on there right now is a brand new nozzle, and I discovered in putting that new nozzle in that the nozzle for the one that's currently attached to the tube here that is not in place right now, there are some problems with how long it is. Basically, I need to replace the heating block entirely. I have been thoroughly, the nozzle's just fused in place, and that's causing some problems. So fortunately, I have a new heating block, and I'm gonna get that put together fairly soon. Now that's fine. I don't need both hot ends working to do this, but there's another problem that I discovered yesterday when I came down to do some prints, which is this guy right here. There's another problem. As you can see, there's a belt tensioner on here right now. This was one of two belt tensioners I had on this belt, because these are old belts. Like, they're super flappity, and that's not great. Makes for inconsistent prints. This guy right here, not the belt tensioner, but the stepper motor, is fried. It's dead. There is electricity, like the driver, the stepper driver is working. All the lights come on the board that are supposed to when you send a command through. I checked, and there's plenty of power coming through. Plenty of power coming through here to the stepper motor. But the stepper motor, depending on how you adjust the potentiometer on the stepper driver, will either make a super loud, really unpleasant noise, or just do nothing. And either way, it doesn't rotate anything. So I have a new motor that should be arriving today, actually. So I'm going to do that. The other thing is these belts are terrible, and it turns out that these specific lengths of belt are kind of niche. And because this is a German printer, it turns out it's pretty difficult to get parts. Like, it was a minor miracle that I was able to get a first-party heating block in Canada at all. But in terms of the belts, I'm going to have to do my own thing. And in this case, do my own thing is going to mean this. I'm going to have to basically cut myself 670 millimeter lengths of this. So this is a known thing with the Velleman printers. This beautiful white steel reinforced cable or reinforced belt that I've got here is not going to stay looking white. Like, look at my hands right now. The way the Velleman Vertex is set up, there are drive belts that just gently rub against each other like this, and it means that the entire inside of the printer kind of gets coated in this black rubber dust that blends with the like the sewing machine oil that I use to lubricate the X and Y rods. Blech, yuck. Now, just quickly, while I'm vlogging about the printer and repairs that I need to make to it, let's talk about a couple other things. See this bizarre looking thing right here? This is a replacement end cap that I printed. There's an issue that's known pretty well in the community where the black end caps, so these guys right here, have a bad habit of wearing down inside. And what I noticed was this rod in the back here was actually moving a lot, like up to about 1.5 millimeters. This back rod right here was shifting back and forth laterally like this, which of course led to some pretty serious print quality issues, because entire layers would just shift on the x-axis a little bit. So fortunately, this, with its giant Frankenstein screw, because that's what I happen to have at the time, is putting enough pressure on this rod that it is no longer moving, which is great. Okay, let's talk about this improvement a little bit. If you see this bracket up here, this is where the part cooling fan was originally mounted, and it did absolutely nothing. The hot end is down here, and if the part cooling fan is up here, it's just kind of wafting down over the part rather than actually cooling it directly. As a result, this printer had notoriously poor overhang and bridging. However, with this mod here, it moves the entire thing down and provides some ducting so that the fan is directly cooling the part. And I went from not being able to bridge on this printer hardly at all to being able to max out any of the bridging tests that I found absolutely effortlessly. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit about this screw coming out the back that drives the Z-axis up and down. So you've got the stepper motor, you've got an attachment, and you've got this long screw. And it is long. Like, the vertical print area on this printer is quite substantial. So what we had was the top of the screw kind of doing this thing, just a little oscillation, which probably implied that it was a little bit bent, but it also was by virtue of the fact that it was not secured to anything. And now there is a bracket with a bearing in it that keeps everything nice and solid. So once all of these pieces come together, this is going to be a pretty rock solid printer again. However, at the moment, there are a lot of things that are in a state of kind of half fixed, and unfortunately, without the Y-axis stepper motor working, the printer is, for the moment, entirely out of commission. So printing the next version of the case for the kid's Game Boy is out of the question. Now, all that said, I do have the new stepper motor coming today. In theory, like within the next couple of hours it should show up, which means that I might be able to get this up and running this weekend, and then with a little bit of luck, the updated case will print and print well, and we can try snapping all the pieces into it. So we'll do another one of these vlogs when that time comes. So if you have any questions about that Adafruit kit we were working from, any questions about Fusion 360, about the Velman as a printer, hit me up in the comments below. Do all that standard YouTube stuff, like, share, subscribe, all that good whatever the people say. I'm not making money off this channel, so do what you will. I just hope that you got something out of it. Once again, my name is Trevor. Thank you for watching Love, Make, Share. I hope you've been inspired today. Go make something.